Thank you, Patricia Turner, for Dr. Patricia Turner, for talking to On Surge today. You are the director for what are you?
I'm the director of the Division of Member Services for the American College of Surgeons.
And I imagine that young surgeons today, from the boomer generation, they have sort of different, a little bit different values and needs from a professional organization. Are you doing things differently, or how are millennials different? Maybe I'll ask that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we do know is that the millennials are quite different from Generation X, and they're quite different from the boomers and from the silent generation. And we have all of those generations still working together in surgery in most institutions, and certainly here at the college. So there are many people who write about this, very articulate people who are very well educated and read about all the generational changes. But we do take very seriously the fact that there may be a different value proposition to our more senior members and to our younger members, and so we try to put something in place that is for everyone. In particular, younger members tend, and I'm speaking in gross generalizations here, but younger members tend not to be joiners, perhaps in the same way as older members. So the notion that you join a society just because, and you stay a member of that society for your whole career, that's much more of a senior surgeon kind of attitude, where the junior surgeons are more likely to say, what is there that's a value to me now, what courses or what products or what services, and then may join organizations because of that specifically.
Right, right. And so how is the college adapting to be more attractive to that next generation?
Well, we're doing a couple of things. So we are cognizant of the fact, for example, that many younger surgeons are employed. So that's something that's very different than a generation or two ago, where it was sort of the exception. If you weren't in academics, then you probably weren't employed. In fact, you were probably potentially in a solo practice or something along those lines. Nowadays, residents are very rarely coming out of training and going into solo practice. And many more of them are in an employed model. So making sure that we are providing content or education around how to be an employed physician, how to negotiate contracts, how to think about these things in a way that's different than what you would have done if you were going and hanging out your shingle. So that's one example that's really a very stark change over the past 30 years or so. So those are courses or content or education that weren't so primary before.
Sure.
Other things are that we are, of course, more and more specialized. So the notion of having some sort of, course that everyone takes where it covers everything from soup to nuts, those would be less favored now because we are much more specialized. 80% of trainees go on to do some sort of fellowship training. So they are narrower and narrower. So you can't afford to be, a mile wide and an inch deep. We have to make sure that we can provide content that's specific to what people are doing in their practice every day.
Right. And I noticed a little bit of a different vibe at the American College of Surgeons meeting in Chicago this year too. I have to say it was a pretty big shift in my years in the college. Tell me how you're approaching that differently.
Yeah, we're trying to be creative and different and lively, and again, acknowledge that there are certainly some things that are quite valuable. The college is over 100 years old, and we value and respect that history and want to maintain some components of that. But we also know that it's more and more difficult to take time away to go to a meeting for a week. Like big box meetings, you have to travel across the country, you're away from your family, from your practice, from your research, from whatever it is that you're doing at home. So we have to try to make sure that we are providing as much value as possible. And certainly extraordinary education is a priority. So that's clear, and that's kind of the foregone conclusion that you come to Clinical Congress and you get great education. But in addition to that, there's the camaraderie, there is that fellowship of surgeons, there's that connecting with people who you may not have seen since the last Clinical Congress, or people from your training program or from your medical school. So creating opportunities for that interaction to happen is also really important. So one of the things, a couple things that we did new this year. So for example, we had early morning yoga and Zumba. Like that's never been done before, but people said, hey, I'd like to get up and do something active in the morning. And so putting something like that on the agenda, of course, it's not going to appeal to everyone, but for some slice of people, that's really valuable, and that improves their experience. There was a Wednesday evening event called the Taste of the City, or Taste of Chicago. So that gave us a chance to showcase Chicago. So different neighborhoods, the Lincoln Park, the Theater District. So different areas around Chicago. We had a blues band, we had, different foods. And so that was an opportunity for all members to come to interact with each other, to interact with the leaders. So again, everyone's really busy. So you're either sitting in meetings or you're, obliged. So the chance to come together and, have a glass of wine and have a bite to eat and talk to the president or to a regent or to an international surgeon is really valuable.
Absolutely. I think I even saw children there. Were there families?
Oh, absolutely. Like that's a big priority for us, certainly in member services. And again, I think the college acknowledging that these are different times. If you're going to go to the meeting, maybe you're bringing your family because you don't want to spend a week away from the family.
Right.
So then the ability to bring your spouse or your children or both to an event like this to take the pressure off was something that we thought was very important. So we emphasize this is a family-friendly event. You can be casual when you come. We wanted people to feel free to do that and maybe take off their tie and just relax a little bit. And again, buy into the camaraderie and the positive interaction that is also a part of the experience of Clinical Congress.
Yeah, I think it's a great direction. That was really nicely done. So what else you want to wrap up? Anything else you want to say about directions for the American College or about millennials or bridging the gap?
Right. So there's a number of things. So, for example, everyone doesn't realize that we give out about $2 million a year in scholarships and fellowships. So those are the sorts of things that may be really of particular interest to our younger members. So certainly some are for senior or fully established surgeons. There are some addendum grants to RO1s and that sort of thing. But we also have smaller grants for new investigators. We have community surgeon awards. So for those who are traveling to Clinical Congress for the first time, or a rural surgeon who's not been, or an international surgeon who wants to come to the Clinical Congress or to have an experience in this country. So those are often really appealing to our more junior members. There are research opportunities. So for those who are interested in getting on kind of the big stage and presenting their research, there are opportunities to do that either through the scholarship committee and giving a talk there, or through the surgical forum. Many of us gave our first talks at the surgical forum. So that's another sort of ripe opportunity for younger surgeons. And then clearly we have the Resident and Associate Society, which is specifically for those who are still in training and fresh out of training, and then the Young Fellows Association. So those groups really focus on the issues that are most pertinent to those demographics. Yep. So things like, how do you start a practice? How do you, get off on the right foot? What are the things for new practicing surgeons? So we do have those two groups, and just by virtue of being in those demographics, you are a member of those groups. So we really take full advantage of them, especially as it relates to the convocation. That's another really iconic event in the life of a surgeon. You become a fellow of the college. There's that pomp and circumstance. You hear the speech by the president. Your colleague or your compatriot, gives an address. And it's really very formal and very exciting. So a lot of people do that. This is one of our biggest years. We had 1,679 initiates this year. So that was our biggest year in ages, and had nearly 800 people come to participate in convocation. So again, lots of making sure that we really are sharing the joy that is surgery with as many of our members as possible.
Terrific. Well, thanks, Dr. Turner, for taking the time to talk today.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out the Op Report. Help us keep conversations alive on topics in general surgery. Check out more episodes of the Op Report and other OnSurge content here at YouTube. Find us at Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. And find our homepage at onsurge.com. Join the conversation and tell us what topics you'd like to hear about and what people you'd like to hear from.